anybody else hops on, we can, they'll just be ready for us. But hi, everybody. My name is Cody Taylor. I'm the Assistant Director of Chapter Services for ZBT. I'll be running through the President review this evening with Christina Parle. We'll be talking through the President Manual and going through the responsibilities and everything like that. Christina, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Christina Parle. I'm the Director of Chapter Services and Conduct for Zeta Beta Tau Fraternity. Feel free to turn on your cameras. We like to see your faces so we know you're there and engaging if you're able, of course. And then keep yourself muted unless you have a question. Please, please, please feel free to use the chat function throughout our time tonight. Like we had said, we'll probably only be here for about 20 or 30 minutes. So ask questions at any point, either via the chat or you can do the raise hand function and we will get to you and ask you to unmute. But Cody, I will hand it back over to you. You might want to go ahead and zoom in a little bit just so it's like at its largest font. But yeah, thank you all for being here.
Right on. Well, sweet. So to kind of preface this, to explain, this updated manual, our staff kind of updated the condensed, I should say, the previous manuals. The past iterations were a little bit longer. So we kind of, took that down, took the page number down and made it a little bit more digestible. It was done very intentionally so that, the important information is here. But there's not a lot of filler information. So everything that is on here is pretty much, pretty applicable to your role. But yeah, so to kind of get into it, obviously, we run through our mission and credo. We don't really need to discuss that right now, but we have our MyZBT resources listed right here. All of these can be found on the MyZBT resource page. At this point, I know most of the presidents on the call are well within their term, so hopefully everybody's aware of how to access this, but to kind of just run through it real quick, to access your MyZBT resource page, just sign into MyZBT. On the left-hand side, you're gonna see a yellow banner. Click the resource center, I think it's under communications, and that'll bring you to all the resources. That's actually where this manual lives, in the officer materials within the MyZBT resource page, and all of these resources as well. Some of them are linked actually in the manual, so you're able to just click on it right away. But then some of them you can find additional resources just on the resource center as well. So to kind of run through the responsibilities, we'll be discussing the basic considerations and recommendations page. This kind of outlines each responsibility. I believe there are 17 for the president, but the basic considerations and recommendations page kind of outlines things to think about, the basics, which are the mandatory bare minimum points about each responsibility that need to be followed. Considerations are things to think about, renting a room, reserving a room, random things like that, whatever it may be, they're all listed here. And then recommendations are just recommendations of what we see from other chapters, good practices from chapters that we've picked up over the years and included in here as well. So to start us off with talking through the first responsibility, I'll pass it over to Christina, and then we'll be hopping back and forth.
Perfect. Okay. So the first one, y'all, is to plan and execute an officer transition program. Some of you are like, I didn't get one of those. Why is that now a thing? So part of the reason that we're asking for you all to do an officer transitions program is so all of the officers within your exec know what they're doing, and not just, oh, hey, this is what we did this one time last year, but like full on, here are the documents, here's the information that you need, here's the manual to be able to sit down and do that stuff together. And so a lot of times I think people think that when we talk about the officer transition program, that it just has to be the president standing up there talking for however long. It does not have to be that way. You could ask somebody from headquarters to sit in. You could ask chapter advisors, fraternity and sorority advisors on your campus. You can invite anybody into that meeting. And so really what you should cover, of course, is their position to some extent, but accountability, the concept of delegation, how you all are going to communicate with each other and with the chapter, talk a little bit about the concept of decision making and how you all want to make decisions together, what your all's philosophy on leadership is, and then different resources that you all will have. You're going to want to do a little bit of goal setting together, and some of those like expectations, right? So what do we expect from each other? What do we expect from the chapter? And what goals do we want to create as an exec? And so really thinking about trying to create a space where you can do all of that. Some of you might be like, Christina, that's going to take us several hours. You can also break it up. If you want to do a little bit on a Sunday and a little bit on a Monday, you're more than welcome to do that. And so making sure that that transition programming is happening every new election cycle, but also if you have officers that maybe step down and you have to re-elect, making sure that you're doing that kind of on a one-on-one basis. And then when we're thinking about considerations, you know, again, thinking about time, the duration of the program, the location of it, and particularly in this time, how can you do it virtually, and gathering schedules for everyone to make sure that it's a time that works for everybody. Consider doing a team builder or some type of like kind of brotherhood building, team building activity together, even if it's 5-10 minutes, it doesn't matter. And then thinking about, again, how you're going to engage potentially just general alumni or your alumni advisors. And then for your officer transition program, we recommend that this occur right after every new cycle of officers, as well as it be at least a half or full day program. So can you all grab breakfast together and then get started? Or can you do breakfast on your own, get started, get lunch together, and then have the late afternoon and then break, you know, for the day, whatever. But being really intentional about doing more than 45 minutes or 10 minutes of time for an officer transition program is super important. And then we recommend, of course, that you set goals and expectations that are recorded and referred to often. So put them at the top of every exec agenda or every chapter meeting to be reviewing and making sure that everybody's on the same page. And then a good way to create those goals is using SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, achievable, time and relevant, and time bound. And then always you can contact headquarters if you want support creating this program or modifying it. And we actually, as a headquarters, are looking to create at least a skeleton of an officer transition program. So feel free to, you know, ask us for support or help on that.
Awesome. So going into the next responsibility, the president is responsible for reviewing each officer's responsibilities as well, each exec officer's responsibility with that exec officer. I think this is really important for the president to realize, you know, what the responsibilities are for every other exec member to help support them in their job. But also, you know, important for those exec officers as well to look through that with the president. Now, obviously, this, you know, it sounds a little bit similar to the transition program, but this should be done separately than the transition program. This should be done, you know, just on a one-on-one kind of meeting with each exec officer at the beginning of the term. You know, following. Following the officer transition program. So you want to think about things to talk about, discuss the goals and expectations that were set during the officer transition program, and just kind of build upon those on a more one-on-one level. You know, you can also most officers kind of have responsibilities that overlap. For example, programming and brother development director work a lot with the journey. So you could meet together with the programming and BDD together and kind of talk through how they're going to collaborate on the journey. You know, that's just one example of how you can kind of meet with multiple officers to kind of review their responsibilities together as a group.
Awesome. And so the next one is all about leading the meetings. This is really basic, y'all, but as the president, you're leading the advisor meeting, the exec meetings, and the chapter meetings on a weekly basis. Some of you might say, oh, well, we have our meetings with our advisors on a bi-weekly basis. That's fine. Nobody is going to suffer any major harm for you doing bi-weekly meetings with your advisors, but effectively we're just saying you need to be leading those meetings on a regular basis. And so again, thinking about availability and timing, it's not really helpful if you've got one guy or one person on your exec who is missing the exec meeting every single week. So really being thoughtful about trying to find a time that works for everyone. And then how are you all going to communicate as a group? Are you best via text, email, some other form of communication? What does that look like? And then our recommendations are that you have those meetings at the beginning of the week and probably staggering them out, right? With potentially the advisor meeting being last to catch everybody up, but also always inviting your advisors to your exec and chapter meetings. And then doing those again on a weekly basis. But if you all are like regularly texting with your advisor throughout the week, maybe you do it on a bi-weekly basis or a monthly basis to make it make sense for you all.
So. The next point is, similarly basic. The president is the main contact for all each headquarters communication and all communication with the fraternity and sorority life office. This is pretty simple as far as, just make sure that you're available to communicate with whatever group it may be, whether it's headquarters, your advisor, or your fraternity sorority life advisor. You want to reach out to these individuals and set up meetings if they haven't reached out already, and you want to set up regular meetings and have regular communication with them. Be mindful of how, their schedule as well. If you need to reschedule or anything like that, do that, 24 hours before the meeting, let them know, or whatever time it may be that, you would have to reschedule a meeting. Think of how you can utilize those individuals as resources. Obviously everybody from the headquarters staff can help with all things ZBT. Your fraternity and sorority life advisor can help with more campus specific problems or anything like that. And your advisor, obviously is there to help on the ground on a more kind of day-to-day basis. So yeah, as a recommendation for, amount of time that you want to meet with these individuals, you should meet, I think with, as far as headquarters go, our bare minimum is, once a month. But if you can schedule meetings, twice a month with headquarters and your fraternity and sorority life advisor, that's a good, regular kind of contact, whether that be, now a lot of that is Zoom calls, but, when we're back in person, that could just be like, a 15-minute check-in on a regular basis as well. Yeah. The other thing to think about as well, and then one of our recommendations is involving other exec officers within within these meetings with these individuals. So bringing your BDD on a call with your headquarters liaison to discuss the journey or something like that, or your recruitment director to a meeting with your fraternity and sorority life advisor to discuss, IFC recruitment changes or anything like that. So try to be mindful and try to, make the most of those interactions with people and utilize them as the resources that they are.
Okay, the next one is very similar, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but here's the deal. As presidents, y'all, you need to be participating in any and all communication requested of you. So if that's a text message, a phone call, video calls, chapter visits, it is your role to make yourself available or say, hey, I'm not going to be available until X time, and to stay accountable for yourself to reschedule things if you need to reschedule them, and be clear and communicative about the meeting and what's going to happen. And if you need to make modifications, As Cody already said, we always recommend that you set a reoccurring meeting for like the same, date and time the next month or 2 weeks from then to help keep track of it. And then if you are not already using some type of calendaring tool, we recommend that you start doing that now, especially in this virtual space. It is going to be particularly challenging to keep up with everything. And then if people are sending you invitations for meetings, we highly recommend that you accept those so they go onto your calendar and you know when they're happening and you're getting notifications or reminders on those.
The next one is, basic as well, but the president serves as the spokesperson, kind of the face of the chapter in all communications with external groups, whether that be headquarters or media sources or anything like that. Specifically within media or anything like that, if there's ever a press release or anything like that, that should be reviewed by headquarters. So if you are sending out a press release or anything, send that to your staff liaison for them to review before it is released. But the president will kind of serve as that main contact, main spokesperson for the chapter, and within meetings with the fraternity and sorority life, whether it be IFC meetings or anything like that, that's the president kind of steps in that role as a representation for the chapter. Well, we recommend a chapter email. I think most of you all had mentioned to me before that you guys utilize chapter emails, so keep doing that. That's great. But yeah, I think that's an easy way to allow for your contact information to be out there simply.
Well, and another really important part about that for creating like specific emails, you can have like a beta, zeta, epsilon email, and then also position specific emails, simply because if Matt, you're president now, but 6 months from now, you're not president anymore, there's some consistency and paper trail of information as well. So want to make sure that we're clear on that. And then for number 7, the president directs and oversees all executive officer responsibilities. So this is a big one. Sometimes our presidents are like, hey, you can do your job. I'll leave you alone. No big deal. I don't need to follow up. I don't need to check in. And that is a problematic leadership style. It is great to trust your people. It's great to believe in their ability to do their jobs. It is not great to not check in. So you all as presidents need to be checking in with your officers, both at the exec level and chair level, on a regular basis. A regular basis is not once a term. So a regular basis is weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, something of that nature, to check in and say, hey, where is this at? How is this going? Because when your exec and chair officers fail, everybody fails, right? And so we as presidents, you all as presidents, have to be helping them move forward and what they're doing. So think about how often you want to gather that information from your guys, and then also give constructive feedback as they're giving you their progress reports. This isn't going to work because of X. That looks great. This doesn't look thought out well. Like, give them that feedback and help them progress forward. And then be sure to review and reflect upon your goals and expectations that you all set as you work with your exec officers. So if your finance director is slacking, then let's reflect back on the expectations that we set, that, if we needed help, we would reach out to one another to be able to help each other, or whatever the expectations are that you all set. And then, of course, we recommend that you use some type of group chat option to be able to remain in constant communication with each other. Going back really quickly to you all as presidents being the spokesperson for the chapter, that also means that if your individual dudes are being reached out to by news media outlets, whatever, they need to be redirecting those things to you. And so if your general member Joe gets an Instagram DM from a news outlet saying, hey, do you want to comment on the recent incident going on at the ZBT house? General member Joe needs to bring that to you as president for you to be able to manage and respond to. So you are probably like, that doesn't happen. It actually just happened last week. I worked with the president through it. So it does happen. And so we have to be thoughtful about those things.
Cool. So the next point has been kind of mentioned a little bit as far as expectations go, but the president will set expectations with the executive board. We kind of talked through that within the transition program and the one-on-one review of responsibilities. But this also applies to the entire brotherhood, the entire chapter as well. So just, what we kind of, recommend is setting those expectations once once an academic term, once a quarter or a semester, whatever it may be, at the beginning of the term, just reminding the chapter of these expectations. Let's see. Yeah, so these can kind of be built upon your brotherhood quality standards. If your chapter, for whatever reason, doesn't have brotherhood quality standards right now, that's something that we definitely need to work on and get those out there. The expectations and brotherhood quality standards are two different things, but they can kind of outline the same idea of behavior, I guess, as far as things go in the chapter. So work with your staff liaison if you don't have brotherhood quality standards. We should get those kind of up so you can build upon that with your expectations that you set with the chapter. You're also going to, as we like to set expectations and hold people accountable, the president should also motivate the chapter to uphold these expectations and go above and beyond them. I think that's, expectations at the very minimum. We want, people might break those expectations and not live up to them, but we want people to, do better and kind of go above and beyond. Specifically when people don't meet those expectations, it should be discussed with the chapter, what, how things can kind of, how you'll, I guess, handle somebody not upholding those expectations, and that can kind of be brought into the standards conversation as well. But yeah, make sure that your expectations are clear. Ambiguous expectations aren't helpful to anybody, and it's hard to hold people accountable for ambiguous expectations. So, whether the expectation is attending 8 chapter meetings a semester or something like that, just making sure you're putting a number on it instead of saying, most chapter meetings or something like that. So to apply that kind of broadly to the rest of your expectations as you might set them.
And then the other thing that I want to make sure we touch on in regards to accountability is y'all, standards managing misconduct or something of that sort, violation of any policies, laws, brotherhood quality standards, is not handled by the exec board. That is a completely separate board. If you do not have a standards director and a board that goes along with it, you are doing it wrong. So if you as president are in the thick of standards board issues, that's not how it's supposed to go. That is not your role as president. However, of course, the standards director is welcome to all exec meetings to be able to talk you all through it, but you all should not be hearing any of those types of incidents. You should not be making any decisions in those types of incidents other than once the standards board makes their recommendation to you all hearing out that recommendation. The next one, as president, it is your duty to communicate everything that you hear, learn, gather from ZBT headquarters, the foundation, or National ZBT Housing if you interface with them, to the rest of your chapter. Not just your ops director, not just the rest of your exec, but your entire chapter. So if something has changed in ZBT land, or there's something important that everybody should know, it is your role to communicate that out. Even if it's a group text or a group me or email, whatever it may be, you need to be giving that information out. I can't tell you how many times we have met with general members who are like, I didn't know that. And part of the reason why they didn't know it is because it stopped with the president. The president got the information and then moved on with his life. And so making sure that you're passing that information on. And then checking in with your chapter to see what is the best form of communication with them. You all have seen with us, we have done the like this message or like this comment to confirm that you've seen it. Maybe you try that out with your chapter to make sure that they're seeing the things, to really being thoughtful about how you're communicating with them as well.
So the next point is in reference to standards of excellence. The president will assist and oversee the operations director's responsibility to submit all standards of excellence materials, as well as your campus accreditation system, whatever it may be called. So, I mean, simply put, you know, you'll assist the operations director in kind of planning and executing the submission process and delegating the work that with each respective executive board officer as far as the different standards of excellence materials go. The operations director obviously is in charge of the bulk of it, but there are things that the president pretty much will have authority over, I guess, of submitting those items. So just making sure that you clearly define those when delegating the work to the executive board, and you coordinate with the operations director, deciding on, does the president submit what he's delegated, or should you send it back to the operations director to review so that the operations director can submit it? That's up to the discretion of the chapter. So just making sure that you're talking about that and making sure that that's understood across the board within the chapter.
And then the next is to, similarly for the operations director, oversee the updating of headquarters and campus rosters in a timely manner. So it is your job to ensure that the roster is getting fully updated. Although the operations director is typically the person going in and updating it in Vault, you should be double, triple checking that is getting done, because again, you all are the main spokespeople. And so when shit goes wrong, you're the people who are coming to make sure that it goes right. And so please, please, please make sure that you're looking into that. And then understanding that there is no inactive status. A lot of chapters have said inactive status. That is not a real thing in ZBT land, and you get charged regardless. So really fully getting a better understanding of the membership statuses document, which is in the resource center on Myzbt. If you have questions right now tonight, feel free to drop them in the chat, or you can ask them at the end. But do not, y'all, wait until the very last second to update your roster or to ask the questions, because we give you literally months to do that. And so we recommend that you start updating the roster at the end of the academic year, whether you're at a quarter school or at a semester school. And then we recommend that you update both the campus and headquarters rosters simultaneously, so you're avoiding some of that difference. Because unbeknownst to you, sometimes your campuses will send us the rosters and say, does this look the same on your end? And then it's different, and we're having to get on to you all about the two being different. So making sure that you're working with the operations director to update the rosters.
The next point is just making sure that the chapter is involved with the campus's governing council. So the president will ensure the chapter's involvement with IFC and will attend all required meetings within that council. Typically, IFCs will have president meetings, weekly president meetings, bi-weekly, whatever it may be. So it's the president's responsibility to attend that or send a delegate if you're unable to attend. A good recommendation of just making sure that the chapter is involved is just requesting a calendar from the IFC exec, just to make sure that you can kind of include that in your programming for the academic term and make sure that your chapter is involved.
Okay, number 13, we are getting close to the end. The launch ensure alignment with all ZBT governing documents. So this one is important, y'all. The journey, ZBT code, risk reduction protocols, those types of things. The reason why this is particularly important is because it's going to require that you work with the other exec officers to make sure that they are seeing these pieces through. And so also, what are your campus expectations and processes? What are the local regulations? And right now you all are learning the local regulations better than anything with COVID-19. So like, what are the varying levels of governing documents, policies, and practices, and making sure that your chapter is in alignment with those? All of our governing documents for ZBT are in the Myzbt Resource Center. And then feel free to reach out to your fraternity and sorority advisor for your campus policies, or even the conduct office is a good place to go sometimes, or the Title IX office, those folks, and review these documents at least with your exec. But we also recommend that you do it with your chapter as often as possible. And so some things that you really need to think about is what are your chapter trends, and think about how, okay, we've got a big issue with people acting like idiots at social events. So maybe we need to look at our risk reduction protocol. Or we've got some concerns about how the older brothers are treating the new brothers. So maybe we need to do a review of the journey, or whatever that may look like for you all. And then we highly recommend that you review all of your documents. You don't have to do it all at once, but at the beginning of each academic term.
The next one is that the president shall sign all contracts on behalf of the chapter. So the big point with this one is basically that all these contracts need to be reviewed by your chapter advisor or headquarters staff prior to signing the contract. But it is the president's responsibility to sign the contract, and no other chapter brothers should be signing contracts on behalf of the chapter. So just making sure that you review that with your staff liaison or advisor prior to signing that. But yeah.
And that means even for social events, even for philanthropy stuff, like all of those contracts need to be signed by you all. The next one is the president leads all ritual ceremonies. This does not mean that you're planning and executing rituals. That is the BDD, but you are the person leading the rituals. Of course, if you can't be there, you need to have somebody do so in your place. If you all do not have 12 gold books that are new since Convention 2019, please get with us at staff so we can get you the updated ones. And please review the gold book instructions and script for each event. And then the other big piece is that between you and the BDD, you all need to be assigning the roles for different rituals well in advance to make sure that everybody knows what their role is going to be come go time.
The next point is that the president executes emergency procedures in alignment with ZBT's emergency protocol, risk reduction protocol, in the event that there is an incident or an individual brother has an incident or something like that. So all of these procedures are outlined within ZBT's risk reduction protocol and your chapter's risk reduction protocol, which kind of goes into the documents that were talked about earlier that need to be reviewed every year, so you can kind of keep these updated. But that kind of outlines the plan in the event of an emergency, and the point of contact for an emergency, and making sure that you share that with your headquarters staff, your advisor, your fraternity and sorority life advisor, and making sure that in the event of an emergency, you are following those procedures outlined in the risk reduction protocol. That can be found in the resource center for Myzbt as well. And yeah, just work closely with your risk reduction or risk prevention and wellness director in reviewing the RRP for the chapter, as we talked about earlier.
Okay, and then the last one, y'all, that you prepare the documents for your successor, making sure that you have included all of the information that they would need. What went well, what didn't go well, list of contacts both on campus and headquarters. Make sure that you've given them all of your knowledge that they may need, and compile that information for them prior to the officer transition. And we always recommend using like a Google Drive or something of that sort, where everybody on the exec can put their information for the transitions. And so those are all of your responsibilities overall. However, the couple of things that you all really need to be working on right now. One is reviewing this manual and making sure that all of your exec officers are reviewing their manuals. 2 is communicating expectations around COVID-19. So whatever the expectations are from us, from your campus, making sure that both, if you have a house, live-ins and live-outs, older and younger, everybody is getting the information around COVID-19. It is not a sufficient answer to say, oh, well, we're virtual, so I can't manage them, or, oh, they're not listening. Please reach out to us so we can help you with that. And then you as president, it is your major role this year with COVID-19 to be sitting down with your exec and deciding, how are you all going to provide value this year? How are you going to keep your guys in the chapter and show them that ZBT is worth being a part of? And if you're collecting dues, why it's worth paying the money. And then checking in on your guys, making sure that people are happy or at least satisfied with what you all are doing. And we have tons and tons and tons of programs available to you all to be able to support you in that. So we will open it up now. What questions do you all have? What concerns do you have? We'd be happy to take any questions. And feel free to unmute or drop it in the chat. Okay.
I have a quick question regarding recruitment. So our school isn't really helping us out for our like events. We have to we're doing it in the basketball arena with nothing. Do you guys have any suggestions as how we could continue to meet new kids and entertain them when they come to our open house?
Anthony, I'll let you take this.
Awesome. Thank you, Christina. Yeah, definitely. What we can do is also connect offline so that we can talk about your particular situation. But a lot of it is going to be through that marketing aspect and making sure that you're able to be connecting with students and showing them what your chapter is like if they were to join without even physically being in that space. So I'm going to send you an email in the next 10 minutes, and then we'll connect and we'll be able to chat more about it.
And we can talk to more about it also as well in our call.
Other questions? And I want to say to Matt's question, if you as president are not helping your recruitment director think through some of those things, you are also falling short. So it is your role as president to help your dudes figure out a path forward, especially in this, I hate this word, but unprecedented time. And if you're I don't know what I'm doing either, reach out to us and we're happy to help you. We're working with 80 plus chapters across the nation, and we've got a lot of great ideas that we've gathered from your peers. And so we're absolutely happy to help in any way. Any other questions, Jared, James, John, Sammy, Matt, any other questions that you all have?
That was great. Thanks, guys.
Yes, thank you, Sammy, for being here. All right, y'all. Well, have a great evening, and this recording will go up if you want to watch it again later, and all of your dudes have different times slotted for them to be able to go. So the Risk Prevention and Wellness and Programming Director are tomorrow, and then Communications, Standards, and maybe another, I can't remember, who else is next week? Next Monday, same times.
Communication Standards, BDD.
Yes. Okay, those are the 3 dudes that are next week. So please encourage your guys to go. This is such an important thing to do. Your alls is in fact going to be the longest because you have the most duties and responsibilities. So most of our calls this evening have been between 20 and 30 minutes. So please let your guys know, and we look forward to seeing everybody later. Thank you all.
One real quick, just as a reminder, if you want to review this manual on your own, it is on the Resource Center in Myzbt. So those have all been updated. All the old manuals have been taken out. All the new manuals are in there now. So feel free to hop in there and take a look at it on your own as well.
If you have trouble getting Myzbt, let us know.
Yep.
Have a good night, y'all. I'll see you later.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.